Morning, everybody, and welcome to the Savvy Entrepreneur Show. If you're an entrepreneur or a small business person, or you're thinking about becoming one, this show is just for you. I'm Doris Nagel, your host for the next hour. I'm a crazy entrepreneur myself, and I've helped and counseled other startups and small businesses over the past 30 years, and have had a hand in starting at least 9 different businesses, either on my own or with friends or colleagues. I've seen a lot of mistakes. I've made plenty myself. The show really has 2 goals. First, to share helpful information and resources. So if I can help just a few of you out there not make some of the mistakes I've seen or I've made myself, then I will be a happy camper. The second goal is to inspire. I don't know about you, but I found having my own business at times pretty lonely, confusing, stressful, sometimes just downright discouraging. And I always found that talking with other entrepreneurs was a great source of inspiration and helped me through some of the tough spots. And maybe it'll help you as well. So I have guests on the show every week who are willing to share their stories and their advice. And my guest this week is Marisella Villano. She is the owner of a company called Marvil Fit. She has pivoted into the fitness business. She didn't start out there, and she's going to share the story of her journey of how she has her own fitness business. So, Marisella, thanks so much for being on the show this week. Welcome to the Savvy Entrepreneur.
Hi, Doris. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on the show.
Well, thanks for being here. I think fitness is a very, very interesting business segment to be in. And I know that it's one that lots of people are interested in because a lot of people are interested in fitness, which is a great thing. But I'm guessing it's not quite as easy as maybe people think. Or tell people a little about your business, Marvil Fit. What does it do and who's your target market?
Marvil Fit is an indoor cycling and fitness studio. It started out as a cycling studio with one room. And within a year, I needed to expand because people wanted more than just cycling. So I created mixed classes where you would cycle and then move into the mat room for more of a personal training type experience.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And people really love those classes. My target market, my target audience, I don't have one. My youngest client is 15 and my oldest is 88 right now.
Holy buckets.
I know. And so the classes are mostly, I would say they're about 75% women some days and then 50 other days. So I do have a generous amount of men that come. And currently my personal training clients, because I also do personal training, almost all of them are men. So
oh, how interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And they're probably the average age is somewhere between 40 and 50 for the men.
How interesting. Are these people at different places on their fitness journey too? People who are beginners, or are these mostly hardcore fitness people?
I would say there's a little mixture of everything. And when I started my business, I didn't expect to see as many beginners as I did. And
Really?
Yeah. And I'm not sure if it's because people felt like I was approachable, because I'm 5 feet tall. I don't look like your average gym instructor.
You're not a drill sergeant, huh?
I'm not. I don't believe in yelling at people because I always say the best coaches in athletics don't yell at their athletes. They inspire them. So that's
Wow.
what I do.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, how did you get into this business? Is this something that was always your dream to do?
No, I never thought that I could do fitness. I was a chubby kid. People used to make fun of me and call me names. And
Ouch.
I know, right?
That's not
And
nice.
no, it's not. But that's okay, because I always tell my children, I have 2 boys, that being uncomfortable and being in a bad situation makes you stronger for future situations.
That's a great way to look at it. So how did you get from the chubby kid to owning and running a successful fitness studio?
Well, I would always go up and down in my weight, go do some crazy diet starting at 13 to lose weight because my mom always encouraged me to lose weight. So she would help me do some crazy fad diet. And then
Wow.
when I met my husband is when I got my heaviest because we had way too much fun together going out to dinner, and my dresses actually got so tight that one of the buttons popped off of it. That's talk about being in love, right? I had to really hunker down and lose weight. And so I became a gym rat, and I used to start at the back of the class and just try to follow the class. And within a year, I was down about 40 pounds and in the
Wow.
front of the class. And I was just switching jobs. I took a break from my job. I was just unhappy in my job. And my husband said, if you're not happy, just take a break and then, regroup and figure out what you're doing. In the meantime, I'm at the gym, and the instructor, Jane, who I adore, and I thank her all the time for where I am now, because without her, I don't think I'd ever be here. And she grabbed me and pulled me aside and said, hey, can you teach a spin class on Sunday morning? We're
Oh,
desperate.
wow.
And I was like, me? I teach a spin class? Like,
Had you done a lot of spin classes by that time?
I did. Within a year, I was literally the gym rat. I was at the gym a good hour and a half to 2 hours. It was my happy place. And don't worry, I wasn't killing myself. I just enjoyed being there. I had great vibes there, and I just wanted to be there.
But that's intimidating, Marisella. I mean, I've been to the gym for years and years and done all kinds of different fitness things, but that would be intimidating to me to say, hey, would you teach the class? I mean, it's one thing to go, okay, I know how to do step classes. I know how to do jazzercise and Zumba. But for somebody to say, would you teach it? I'd be like, I don't know.
Well, that was my response. And she begged, and I adored her. And she said, please, you have great form. You're always happy. You would be a great instructor. I know you would be a great instructor. And I was like, but that's not what I went to school for. I already had a master's degree in the study of aging and a bachelor's degree in science. And I was like, an instructor, an aerobics instructor? So I did it. I was like, why not? I have nothing else to lose, and I could make money doing it. I taught my first class. I did great. I got a standing ovation at the end of class.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it was really good. I feel like it was the job I was always meant to do now, looking back. But after I taught the class, I said, I need to get certified. I can't teach a class without a certification. This is my scientist background.
Of course, as a lawyer, I'm the same way. You don't just jump into something like this, right?
Right, exactly. So I got certified. And then after I got certified, I realized, holy crap, I don't know anything about spinning still after the certification. The certifications are kind of in fitness. They kind of are like one day, a weekend, a month long. So you don't really get that much information unless you are trying to do more for yourself and enlighten yourself more and your clients. So I started to get more and more and more and more certifications until now, where I'm getting a master's degree in exercise science. So Here we are. I know. Fast forward 20 years later, I have my fitness studio, and I feel like this is what I was always meant to do.
You make this all sound easy. So you're teaching classes, but again, it's a big leap to go from teaching some classes at someone else's facility to deciding to have your very own business. Talk about that process.
I think because I am a perfectionist, an easygoing perfectionist. Can we say that?
I don't know what that means. You can say it, but you may have to explain to people what you mean by that.
I want things to be run nicely without any issues, like poor audio equipment, bad music, faulty wiring for the music, so that when you play music in class, you don't hear static.
Yeah, or big pops. Those are always fun.
Right. Bad bikes. I was so frustrated with the fact that the bikes were always broken at the gym facilities that I started learning how to fix them.
Oh
because
my goodness.
it would take forever for maintenance or for the front desk to get people to come and fix the bikes. I think sometimes they wait for like 4 or 5 bikes to break to get a guy to come in and fix them. So it was incredibly frustrating for me. So I started learning how to do just basic, easy things on the pedals, greasing the flywheel so they're not squeaking in class. And then, I wasn't getting scheduled for the classes that I wanted, even though whenever I subbed for like the primetime spots, I would get a standing ovation after class. They would put me in like the evening classes where there would be like 4 or 5 people. And I think they did that to try to bring more people since I was likable, but it really wasn't successful. So I just got a little frustrated with that. And then we had an issue with my husband's business, and I felt like I needed to take the reins a little bit to help him. And then that's how we started Marvil Fit.
It's funny how you look at taking the reins. For a lot of people, that's a very scary plunge, but it sounds like for you and your husband, this was kind of the natural evolution for you. How do you explain that mindset?
That's really interesting because I've always had that mindset, and my husband loved this quality about me. He said I've always been feisty, and it was the quality that attracted him or me to him. The other day we were talking about something, and it reminded me of when I was a kid. I'm Sicilian. And so for the holidays, our families would get together and there would be a boys' table and a girls' table. I never wanted to be on the girls' table doing the girly stuff. So I would always sit and watch the guys play this game called Scoopa, which meant sweep, this card game. And I learned how to play Scoopa with the boys because I wanted to be in a position that I thought was more authoritative.
Good for you. Just a little subtle resistance right from a very young age.
Yeah. So, and then my father passed away when I was 13 years old, and he had a massive heart attack.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. And it really taught me how to pick myself up, and my mom and my sisters, and we had to persevere. And so I learned a lot about perseverance and fighting from that. And being
Wow.
a woman in the 80s, you know how that goes.
Yeah. Well, so, all right. So you made the decision. Then what? You looked for a facility and you had to buy equipment and you had to figure out what kind of classes to offer. Talk about that.
Well, when I started, I thought that I only wanted to do spinning because that's what I loved. And I was already a traveling personal trainer. So I was teaching fitness classes at gyms, different kinds of fitness classes. And I'm in the Hamptons, so I was teaching at like 3 or 4 gyms in the Hamptons, and then a traveling personal trainer. So I just wanted to do spinning and some personal training. We looked around for places to find out what the rent was, and then we figured out how much I needed to make a day to at least cover rent, at least for a while as a startup. So that's
Yeah.
how we did it. We figured it out. That's how we figured out pricing.
And were you self-financed from the beginning? You made
Yes.
everything pay for itself.
Yep. We bought,
Wow.
this is insane. Like I ended up getting 2 interest-free credit cards, and I bought all the bikes on the interest-free credit cards, and I paid for them in a year. I didn't get paid for a good year, so I could pay off my bills and not have debt.
Wow.
Yeah.
How's your business grown since you started it?
Well, we've doubled in size. I have a second space now.
And by the way, when did you officially start your business?
In 2013.
So you've doubled it since then.
Yes, I doubled it in the first year.
So talk about that.
Well, people were asking for more classes, different classes, more personal training. And the spot next door became available. And lucky for me, my landlord really liked me and he offered the spot to me first. Phew.
Nice.
Yeah. So quickly, my husband and I did some cleanup. We had the landlord do the basics, and we have a mat studio where we do personal training and fitness classes, like small group training and some other things.
Talk about some of the challenges you had early on when you were first getting started.
My biggest challenge was me. I was so afraid that I wouldn't be accepted.
Even after all the standing ovations and all
Yeah,
the fans you had in your classes before.
yeah, because I had bills to pay now. I was no longer an employee who can call in sick and say, I can't teach Saturday. Can you get a sub for me? This was it.
Right.
So that was really scary
I'll
because
bet.
I had those interest-free credit cards and we took some money. We got a few home equity loans, small, but
Yeah.
still, it was still money that we took
Well,
out to start
yeah.
this.
It's a big risk, especially if your husband's business is challenged. You
Right,
know, if it's one thing if you have one steady breadwinner
right.
and you just started on the cash flow from that, but it doesn't sound like that was really the case, at least when you were starting.
Yeah, it was a little frightening. And with two little boys, the boys were 4 and 8 at the time. So it was a big deal. But
How did you juggle all that?
I have no idea.
What are your challenges today some of the same ones or are they different?
My challenges today are more that I don't have enough time to give what my clients want. That's
Okay, so talk
yeah,
about that because that's another big jump is to go from Marisella, who teaches classes and is chief cook and bottle washer and pays the bills and, does everything, to one where there's other people doing stuff. So have you made that transition or is that part of the challenge that you're dealing with?
no, I think I've made the transition, but I did learn that through COVID that I need to make sure that I have balance with work and family because before COVID, people just wanted more and more and more. And I adore my clients. I have the best clients in the world. I really do. And I tried to make everybody happy. So I was being pulled at so many different directions. And,
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure that the business was making money.
Right.
But after COVID, there were clients that stayed with me and supported me, or during COVID, I should say. And then there were clients that pretend they don't even know me anymore. Um,
Really? That's
yeah,
very interesting. So how did you deal with COVID?
because I have a background in science, I knew it was going to be a big deal. I said to my husband, we're shutting down. I've never seen anything like this. And he was like, no. I was like, yes. And he's a mechanic. So there's nothing really scientific about him. He's super smart engineering wise, not scientific with microorganisms. So I said, it's not going to be good, honey. I said, I think what we need to do is offer to rent the bikes out and we'll hand
Oh,
deliver the bikes. And he was like, you're crazy. And I was like, I don't need you. I used some other words. And I said, I just need your truck. Just give me your truck and I'll deliver the bikes by myself. And so, then he said, no, I'll help you, but you're crazy. And I was like, I'm telling you, it's going to work. So by the time we closed down, it was like 2 days before we closed down, everybody was like, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm renting the bikes out and we're going to teach online classes. That's what we're going to do
oh, good for
until this
you.
was over. Yeah, it was like, I don't even know how I came up with it, but I was like, thank goodness I came up with it. And so that's what we did. Like we closed, and the day we closed, we had all the bikes rented. Everybody was like, deliver to my house, deliver to my house. So we had a monthly membership, and I offered about 2 classes a day online. And we basically
Wow.
did that for a year and a half.
What a great pivot. Your scientific background, who knew how useful that would be?
I know. Well, I have an uncle who said to me a long time ago that knowledge is a light load to carry. And I always use that advice. Thank goodness for that background.
Yeah. So today in your business, are there other instructors and other people around you that help the business run on a day-to-day basis?
No. Before COVID, I had 4 instructors
Oh,
and I had
wow.
a full-time desk manager. And then I really couldn't hire anybody during this whole process with COVID because I didn't know what the regulations were. My studio is pretty small. I had 17 bikes before COVID, and those are the bikes that I rented out. And I bought new bikes, and now I only have 9 because I didn't know when the COVID restrictions were going to lift. And they really only lifted less than a year ago.
Right.
So I only have 9 bikes, and I'm kind of making the schedule for my needs so that I could be with my family too right now.
Yeah. There certainly was some silver linings to COVID.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us realized how much we were away from our families and our loved ones when we worked. And you've got clients who are there with you. They're your source of inspiration and your cheerleaders. And then other people just,
They almost disappear.
yeah, you wonder, don't you?
Yeah, I've learned though that you can't take anything personally because everybody has their own reason for doing the things that they do. And it's not really to hurt you, it's to serve their best interest. That has helped a lot for me to deal with that because I am insanely sensitive, although
Yeah.
most people don't know that.
It's hard not to be. I mean, it's your baby, your business. You put so much of yourself into it. It's hard not to. I get it. Even as a consultant trying to sell services or convince people to use me as their lawyer, it's disappointing when you have people who you're pretty sure are going to sign up, then they ghost you and you're like, what, wait, what?
That's
It's hard.
perfect. I
It's
was
really
ghosted.
hard not to take it personally.
Yeah, I was ghosted by some members, and that's okay. Like I said, people have their own reasons for doing what they have to do.
Are your offerings now the same or different than before
Um,
COVID?
they're a little bit different. I have more personal training that I'm doing now than I did before COVID because we were more class centric before. But so what I did was I pivoted after COVID because I didn't want that many people in one room. So that's why I only have 9 bikes. I think I'm going to have to get a few more bikes in the near future because the classes are filling up again and people want more classes again.
And you don't want to drive yourself crazy. So to do that, you need more people in the classes, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's definitely growth ahead, and I know. So I'm trying to organize it as best as possible, especially since I'm just finishing up my master's degree in exercise science. I have 2 classes left and a thesis.
Wow.
So
Good for
once,
you.
yeah. And so once
So
that's done, then I could really get crazy and do more creative stuff here.
I'm just curious, the world of fitness is really broad and there's a lot of different things you could do. Were there offerings that you tried and decided they just didn't work?
I did tinker with it a little bit. I did offer some Pilates fusion classes that people enjoyed. I got a mat certification in Pilates so that I can
Of
teach
course you
that. Of
did.
course I
Yes, of
did, right?
course. Yeah.
Um,
I would expect nothing less, Marisella.
and that was a popular class, but I found that people really enjoyed the personal training experience and the bike experience.
Uh,
So I kind of stuck with that. And because I have a science background, as I mentioned about 100 times, right? I wanted what we did to be science centric. There's so much garbage out there in the fitness industry, so much misleading information.
Give an example or two.
Like when you hear belly fat, let's trim your belly fat by doing sit-ups. I see that a lot since my Instagram handle shows that I'm into fitness. I get a lot of fitness videos and I'll get videos of like a
Yeah.
woman or a man pinching the back of their arm, like the bra fat, and they'll poke at it and then they'll show you 2 exercises to do to get rid of it. And
My favorite one is the latest one I keep getting is the guy who says, you don't need to cut carbs. I eat donuts all the time. I'm like,
I
what?
saw that one.
What? And if you fall for this, I got a bridge I'm going to sell you cheap or some swampland, really cheap.
I'm so glad that you didn't fall for it because I watch that all the time and go, oh, geez, who's falling for this now?
Some people are obviously because they show it a lot.
So you cannot spot train an area. It's impossible. what you need to do is do cardiovascular exercise. That's running, walking, swimming, cycling. And what that does is it actually helps you to burn fat in the long run. So we have these little organelles in our cells called mitochondria, and that's where fat is burned. And the only way that mitochondria burn fat is through aerobic exercise, because that's the energy source. It's either carbohydrate or fat that the mitochondria, well, I shouldn't say it's either carbohydrate or fat. The mitochondria prefer fat because it gives the most energy for movement.
But doesn't the body burn sugar first and then fat, or no?
It depends on how hard you're working.
Interesting.
Right? Yes. So generally the first hour of exercise, you'll get a little combination of both. And if you have intense exercise, then your body will use the carbohydrate until it's depleted and then reach for the fat. So strength training doesn't burn fat. The act of strength training doesn't really burn fat.
Because that's anaerobic exercise, right?
Correct. Oh my God, Doris, you're brilliant.
No, I'm not. I've been through a lot of fitness classes in my life. Looking back, is there one thing that you wish that you had done differently?
No.
You're amazing. How many entrepreneurs can say that? Not many.
Aside from the fact that I wish I had more money to start.
Or that COVID had never happened, but I
don't know, things happen for a reason. And, with my history, I've always been used to having to rise above things, losing my dad, putting myself through college, basically being on my own since I was 17. COVID didn't scare me. I mean, I did sit on the couch with a vodka on ice the night before we shut down. And my cousin Lynn, who I adore, is my best friend. She said, "Okay, are you done feeling sorry for yourself? It's time to put your big girl panties on and start executing the plan." I was like, "Okay." I didn't even finish my drink. I was so mad. And I was like, "All right, time to start moving. Like, I know what I got to do." It is what it is. I teach my children that adversity is very important for survival, because the more we learn how to deal with adversity, the more successful we become at whatever we do. So that's what I try to do. I deal with adversity, and I do a lot of it organically. I kind of react with what is happening around me, and I make the best decision.
It's a natural segue to my next question. Where you have found help and inspiration along the way?
Oh, gosh. Well, my family, of course.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
My friends.
And your cousin, you just
my
mentioned.
cousin, yes, my bestie. My husband said the most amazing thing before I opened up Marvil Fit, because I was really my own worst enemy. I was so afraid to fail. And I kept saying to him, "But what if it doesn't work out?" And he's afraid of everything. I'm the type A adventurous person. He'll go sailing and do crazy stuff. When I met him, he was riding motorcycles and I thought he was just so cool, but he's not the adventurous person career-wise and in life. And he said to me, "You're never going to know whether you're going to fail or succeed if you don't try." And it's something that I never expected him to say, because he's not very aggressive in terms of business.
But he knows you.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, he's right. And that has really been my motivator to keep going when he said that. And it helped ease my nervousness about failure.
Good for him and good for you. Having a strong family and support around you, I think, is a consistent theme among entrepreneur guests on my show that I've had over the past now almost 4 years. It's a very, very consistent theme. You mentioned during COVID that you were doing live streaming. And, I mentioned to you that I'm a Lifetime Fitness member for a long time. That's the gym that's closest to me. And I also have my little machines and I do my iFit classes, which I really enjoy. Lifetime has continued. They started doing during COVID live streaming as well as on demand classes. And I found I still really like those. And obviously, the whole iFit concept or Peloton has their competing line, and there's probably other ones out there. Those are all basically on demand kind of classes. You plug in the machine, you pick a program, and you do the routine. I'm curious what you think about those long term and did you think about continuing to do some live streaming or on demand classes even after COVID?
I did, but it was too much to teach live classes and then tape classes. And I didn't
Ah,
have the means to do both at the same time. So I decided that it had to be one or the other. I do still do personal training remotely. I have several clients that I train on Zoom a week because they're far and they like my technique. So they want to train with me. As far as the future, I'm actually upgrading my software system where I'm going to have the ability to tape live classes. And so people can do a live class with my class
yeah.
or pre-recorded. But again, that's going to be after I finish with school because it's going to be a lot of work to organize all of that. I do like the idea of any tool that people can get to exercise.
Most of us need to do it more often.
Right. And with my schooling right now, all the scientific data leads to aging, exercise for
Yes.
longevity and wellness. I
Yep.
have an 88-year-old client with dementia. I started training her when she was 79. She's stronger now than she was at 79 without dementia. So
Wow.
it's really important that everybody exercise.
Well, and especially for women, I saw something not too long ago about osteoporosis and women that if you walk, I forget what the statistics were. I'm sure you can look online and find them, or maybe you have them even at the top of your head of something like if you walk 3 hours a week or something like that, it improves your bone density, reduces your risk of osteoporosis by some ridiculously amazing percent.
Actually, strength training is actually better than walking.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So some of the studies that I've been reading have shown that resistance training offers significantly better benefits than walking
Ah, interesting.
because it's the resistance against the bone. So when you lift a dumbbell, your muscles tighten and they pull up on your bone. And that's what strengthens your bone. So when you use dumbbells, not 2 or 3 pound dumbbells, unless you're in rehab, I tell my clients, you're not using 2 or 3 pound dumbbells, or unless you're deconditioned, so that when you lift a heavier dumbbell, it creates that increased force and then helps to build bone. So that's actually better than walking.
Very interesting. Where do you see the fitness industry going? And what, if anything, do you see happening to Marvil Fit as a result of this, or things that you might want to try?
I definitely think, as we talked earlier about the online classes, I think fitness is going to be more hybrid, some online, some personal. And that's kind of what I'm gearing toward as well, just for timing purposes. People just can't get here all the time. And
Yeah.
unless you're not working, you don't have children, then you can be at my studio all the time. But most people have, school engagements, work engagements, obligations.
I found, frankly, one of the reasons that even with the Lifetime Fitness membership that I got a machine in this iFit program is that there were days where, frankly, the only time I had to get on the machine was a few minutes either early in the morning or late at night. And it just was a time saver to be able to hop on and at least get a good 25-minute workout in that I otherwise wouldn't get.
I always tell people that if you don't have time to do one complete workout, break it up into 2 during 2 different times of the day to get it all in, because your life really depends on it. Your wellness, your longevity really does.
Good advice. Where do you see Marvil Fit in 3 years? Where would you like it to be?
Well, I think it's going to start becoming a little more hybrid, where we're going to be offering online classes. I know I need to get instructors again, but I need to be fully available for that, because running a business, as any business owner will tell you, is hard. As wonderful as my employees were, I had great employees. Being late, calling in sick, me missing my son's baseball game to jump in when an instructor doesn't show up is tough. And, it's not even like they didn't show up. They got sick, it's not their fault, but I'm the one that ended up missing.
The buck always stops with you.
Right. So I don't know if I want to be reliant on that kind of lifestyle again just yet. So that's why I'm easing into this a little bit and then trying to organize the chaos a little bit more effectively, because I think that's why I called myself an easygoing perfectionist.
Yeah. I'm starting to understand what you mean by that now.
So I want it done, not perfect, but I want to make it so that my clients and I am happy with whatever is offered at the studio. And my clients are very important. I have wonderful, wonderful clients.
Right. And if you're not happy, what's the point of doing it, all of this, right?
Right. And if it's not fun anymore, you really have to enjoy it, because it wears on you.
Yeah. Looking back over your own journey, what advice would you give to other people who are just starting out with their business, or maybe they're thinking about starting a business?
Learn everything you can, the ins and outs of your business. I've consulted some small studios, some startup studios. I was lucky enough to meet a friend who actually helped me. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. We moved on, but her name is Barbara Chansey, and she helps design large scale studios. And I was lucky enough to meet her when she was starting out, and she helped me with this studio. And I ended up helping her out with her smaller studios when she didn't have time for them. And one of the things I said to some of these smaller studios is, you need to learn the ins and outs of your business, because when your instructor calls in sick and doesn't show up and none of the other instructors can cover, you should be able to get on that bike and not cancel the class, and you should be able to teach that class. I think that you need to do your math. If you're starting a business like I did, find out how much your rent costs. How much money do you need to make a month to cover the cost? How much do you need to make money to take a paycheck? And that's really it. And find people like-minded and other entrepreneurs that can help you. Because talking, as you said earlier, talking is the most important way to get through all of this, because it's difficult and it can be wearing, and talking is the best way to navigate through the insanity of being an entrepreneur.
And it is amazing. You asked me why I do the show. I do it because, I get inspiration every single week from amazing people just like you. And I get to share that advice with all of my listeners. And I turn most of my shows into an on-demand version. So people listen to them, and people will listen to those podcasts 2, 3, now even 4 years after they're originally done. And that makes me happy, not because I can tell people, oh, look, I got this many likes or I have this many followers, but because I know that some of the stories and some of the learnings and hearing from kindred spirits out there, I'm sure it has helped people. So that makes me happy.
I love that. When I started, people were like, you have to get likes. You have to get likes. And I was like, likes. Oh my God, I have to get likes, so I'm like freaking out.
No, I'm not a social media marketing person, but to me, these people who are focused on likes, the question is, what does it get you? You know, you want to know, does it get you where you want to go? And where is that?
When you really enjoy what you're doing and you have a purpose, like you have a purpose, and I love what you do, you're so awesome. It doesn't matter how many likes you get, because when you know you're helping people and you're helping them change their lives and empowering them, then the likes are insignificant.
Absolutely right. Any words of advice for balancing a business with raising a family?
Get a lot of help.
What kind of help?
So I would have prepared meals. I would plan. So I had pretty much a set schedule, unless, I had an employee that couldn't make it to work. My schedule was set. So I was out. I taught 3 nights a week. So I wouldn't be home till sometimes 6:30 on
Mm,
some nights. And that's including training clients after I taught class. So
yeah.
I would make sure that I had prepared meals. I'd help my husband kind of organize a little bit so that he can take care of the boys when I wasn't home. I got a babysitter. I think it's really important that you find people who can help you. My mom helped. She was amazing, especially in the beginning. She was super helpful. And friends. So organizing, getting help to take care of your little ones when you're not there to do so. I was also lucky enough that the teachers at my boys' schools saw how hard I was working, that they used to text me and remind me when there were school events so that I wouldn't miss them. And I love those women. I still I hold them precious to my heart, because they knew how important it was for me to be there for my boys too while I was
Yeah,
in business.
for sure that. How can people reach you if they're interested in learning more about Marvil Fit, or maybe they just want to connect with you to talk about their fitness business? Who knows? Maybe they want to have you consult with them, or just maybe chat, or maybe balancing being a mom with running a business. What's the best way for them to connect?
They can check my Instagram handle. I have a Marvil Fit Instagram handle. I have a Marisella Villano Instagram handle. I also have a Facebook handle for Marvil Fit. LinkedIn, there's a handle for Marisella Villano. And you can always email me at info@marvilfit.com. That's MARVILFIT.com.
Marisela, thanks so much for being with me this week and sharing a little bit about your journey and some of the behind the scenes challenges of running a fitness studio and a personal training business.
Oh, and thank you for letting me tell my story. I really appreciate that.
And I hope that maybe a few listeners who have similar businesses or maybe are thinking about starting one got some great insight. Speaking of listeners, I appreciate you as well. You are, after all, the reason I do this show, and I would love to hear from you. If you have a business challenge you're dealing with or a topic you'd like to learn more about, part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem that you'd like to hear more about or hear from, or you or someone you know would be a great guest, or maybe you just want to shoot the breeze, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. My email is dnagel, Nagel, at thesavvyentrepreneur.org. Before I wrap up this week's show, I want to put in a couple of plugs of my own. First, you can find lots of free helpful information and resources on my radio show website, thesavvyentrepreneur.org. Check out the site. There's lots of free blogs, ebooks, infographics for entrepreneurs and small business people, and you'll also find an archive of all the past Savvy Entrepreneur shows on demand through my podcast feed. In those, you will hear lots of tips and helpful suggestions and information from dozens and dozens of amazing past guests on the show. I'm moving more content there every day, so keep checking back. You can also find past episodes of the show on my YouTube channel, which is called the Savvy Entrepreneur Radio Show. You can listen to past interviews and even download them. Listen to some of the past shows, like them, comment on them, and follow my channel so you'll be sure to catch future shows as they're posted. You will be supporting the work of not only the Savvy Entrepreneur, but also lots of your fellow entrepreneurs who will appreciate your help in getting the word out about all the great and amazing things that they are doing. Tune in next week at 11 a.m. Central Time, noon Eastern. But until then, I'm Doris Nagel, wishing all of you happy entrepreneuring.